All right then guys, so from our previous video, we learned what audience analysis is and what an audience is as well, and kind of talked about that in our discussion that I placed on the video. So next we're going to be going over some audience analysis because there's so many of them. I'm only going to keep it to a couple of them, about 3. We're going to go over some types of audience analysis that we are actually going to be doing in class with the audience analysis activity that I had you guys do, and we're also going to be just discussing them and how they pertain to your guys' videos for your speeches. I mean, excuse me. All right. So, sorry guys, like my throat was super dry. I had to drink some water. I'm sorry. I'm human too, so. in any case, we're going to go over those 3 types right now, and I'm going to share my screen with you so we can go over them on the PowerPoint. And as you guys already know, I keep it with Rick because Rick is dope, and so is Marty. He's like, oh snap. I think it's hilarious. All right, so types of audience analysis that we're going to be discussing. We're going to be discussing the first one is going to be audience centeredness. We're going to go over egocentrism, and then we're going to go over and wrap it up with demographic audience analysis. And for the audience analysis activity that I placed on Blackboard for you guys, that was a demographic audience analysis activity. So just to give you a little bit of context as we get into that in a little bit deeper as the video goes on, that's kind of like what we actually did as in the activity, and I'm going to be discussing that during lecture on Thursday, so don't worry about that. All right, so here's the first one. The first one is audience centeredness. So what is audience centeredness? Audience centeredness is keeping the audience at the foremost in your mind at every step of your speech, preparations, and your presentation. So what does that mean? So in audience centeredness, you're essentially looking at um, what the audience wants to hear, right? So like in our class, we are all kind of different. There's quite a bit of us who are actually pre-nursing, some of us who are design, some of us who are pre-criminal justice. So if you're one of those students, like we have a majority of you guys, so if you're one of them, then you can actually know like our audience wants to learn about those particular topics, right? So we should create our speech depending on those topics, right? So in our preparation, we're still considering the audience. We're considering how the audience is, how they're going to do things, how they might receive things. So we're not going to want to use like a lot of jargon because we want them to understand us. So in your preparations, you're going to want to write out your speech and kind of like think about like, oh, if I say like, um, if what's a good communication word? If I said like, oh yeah, like there's this one lady that I know and she suffers from mean world syndrome or she suffers from convergence theory. You guys aren't going to know what that is because you're not comm majors. So because you're not comm majors, you're not going to know like what I mean when I say she's suffering from convergence theory because you don't know what convergence theory is. By the way, it just means that like if you're exposed to too much media, like you feel like so afraid to even go outside that everything that could possibly go wrong, like a plane coming down and like crashing into you and killing you, will happen. It's actually a really amazing theory. If you have time, look it up, but it's great. Um, anyways, and so when you're delivering your speech, you also are keeping your audience in the mind as well because you're thinking about them and how they're going to react and how they're going to play out throughout your presentation or without your speech. So next we're going to be going over egocentrism. And the definition of egocentrism comes from your book as the tendency of people to be concerned above all with their own values and beliefs and their own well-being. So I like this little gif about like Rick because like Rick doesn't give a shit about anybody except for himself because he believes that there's infinite worlds and infinite universes that everyone can just be replaced. And so like it doesn't matter what happens to you because no matter what, there's an infinite amount of you. So I like to kind of think of this as like making sure that you get whatever you want no matter the cost of anyone else. So like even if you had to kill, let's say, over 100,000 people to believe that something like the pandemic actually doesn't exist, and then finally you put on a mask, that's egocentrism. So I would keep it that light when we're talking about politics, but but yeah, essentially we're keeping everything in the sake of our own beliefs, and it doesn't matter if we hurt others. So Nextly, we're going to be talking about the demographic audience analysis. And as I mentioned before, we did do the audience analysis survey that I put up for you guys. And that is essentially taking an account of your demographics. So it's defined in your book as audience analysis, this audience analysis that focuses on demographic factors such as age, gender, religion, sexual orientation, group membership, racial, ethnic, and cultural backgrounds. So an example of that is, like I said, the activity that I had you guys do in Blackboard. So, and as I said, we're going to be going over that on Thursday's lecture, but I also wanted you guys to see that, like, this is a way for speakers to get a sense of like who they're actually speaking to by getting all of this information, by pulling this information, pulling from it and saying like, well, based on these statistics, I know that the majority of my audience is X, Y, and Z. Or they could say the majority of my audience are female, age of 25 and above, and they're Latinas who believe in Catholicism, or for whatever example that might be. And I like to put up like this little pizza because I always thought this scene was really funny, because he's a pizza and he's ordering a person with extra people. So I just thought it was hilarious. But essentially, yeah, like it gets your taste for things. Like he wants one large pizza with extra people, and so as a pizza person, that is his right to do that. And if he was to give a speech, he would give a speech on what his likes and based on those demographics. So I'm going to be placing another discussion board, but you guys should have already answered the questions throughout this video. So I'm going to place another discussion board about like what we went over as far as the concepts of audience analysis, and I just want to know what you guys think about them. Let me know which ones are easier for you to remember and which ones aren't. And then, yeah, we're going to talk about our last topic for this week and on audience, and then that's going to be it. All right, guys, so I will stop sharing that screen, and I'll see you in the next video. All right, guys.